بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. Thank you very much for joining us today. Inshallah, today will be our fifth session of this year's Ramadan in Me program. Uh, and following from the first set of programs, the first on day one, we talked about what it means to be young Muslims. Day two, seeking knowledge in old age. Day three, we talked about Islam in the digital age. And day four, we talked about um, din life balance. So one of those things that's very crucial to din life balance is balancing between seeking Allah's pleasure and seeking the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الناس إن وعد الله حق ولا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. In other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يعلم أن من الحياة الدنيا لعب وله. Up until the end of the verse, the other verses in Surah Al-Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب. قل أنبئكم بخير من ذلكم للذين اتقوا إن ربهم جنات تجري من تحت الأنهار خالدين فيها وأزواج مطهرة ورضوان من الله والله بصير بالعباد. We have verses in Surah Al-Isra where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من كان يريد العاجل عجلنا له فيها ما نشاء لمن نريد ثم جعلناه جهنم يصلاها مذموما مدحورا. If I have the end correctly. Um, and there are other verses, there are other hadith where Allah said, authentic hadith at least to the Hassan level, where he said, if a person makes the dunya the most important thing to them, that their affairs will be scattered. But if a person makes the akhirah the most important thing to them, the dunya will chase them even if they did not want it. So we also have other hadith that teach us similar teachings. And Rasul as the hadith came in Imam al-Nawawi, as reported in his Arba'un al-Nawawi, that in al-Ruh al-Qudus nafatha fi ruhi. The popular hadith in al-Nawawi's collection, that a person would not die until they get what that which has been decreed for them. So for ajmil fi talab, a person should seek out that which Allah has decreed for them in a beautiful manner. So inshallah today, based on all of these ayahs that teach us that the difference between seeking Allah's pleasure or seeking the dunya, or in fact seeking the dunya while not violating Allah's bounds, or perhaps seeking the dunya as a means to attain the akhirah, because the verse وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. So inshallah, to discuss this and more, we have invited our beloved sister here today, Sister Ni'am Abdul Karim Esquayama, to come and teach us a little bit about the difference between what we call Barakah culture, that's a culture of seeking the dunya, where one prioritizes Allah's Barakah, Allah's blessings, and a hustle culture where a person just focuses on getting that which of the dunya that they want without focusing on any aspect of Islamic ethical concerns or Islamic morality when it comes to doing these things. So I think she's on the Zoom. So as soon as she's ready, we invite her to uh, unmute herself and we can start the conversation, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
نعم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for joining us today. May Allah subhanahu
You're
wa
most
ta'ala reward you abundantly. I mean, so
amazing.
before we kickstart the program, I just want you to maybe spend about 2 minutes of your time telling us a bit about yourself, your education, your journey, your business, and other things you are involved in.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Once again, my name is الله ربي سنة وعي business is the building business, the production of
I understand. Um, I th I think your audio is cracking. Uh, I'll understand. Perhaps it's from my side, but uh, can you please come again? I'm so sorry. I think we're having some technical issues. The network on either one of our sides perhaps is not the best. So if you could,
yes. Okay.
I'll understand. It is still cracking.
Oh, that's terrible. I could hear you clearly. I can still hear you, but I can see you clearly too. That is terrible to you see. Okay. Let me see. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly now, Alhamdulillah. Perhaps it's the
Okay,
load on both the video and audio.
exactly, exactly. So I think I will just speak without the video
That's fine,
so they
inshallah.
can hear me. Just
Inshallah.
that's the possibility.
Would
Yes,
manage with
yes.
that, inshallah.
Naam, naam,
Okay, now.
alhamdulillah. All
Mm-hmm.
right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Naam. I'm Nima Abdul Karim, as introduced earlier. I'm a law graduate and I've completed my studies at the Nigerian Law School. For my degree, I attended Bahrain University Kano. And during the course of my degree, I started a business, um, Splendor Bedding, where I make bedding sets and throw clothes and pillows. That's basically it for what I've done so far. Well, I don't know if you can call me Esquire and Co for now, considering that law school hasn't released our results till now. So we haven't been
Inshallah,
in
it will be
call
fine when it
for
comes
new
out.
ventures. Inshallah. Inshallah.
Now, so Jazakumullah Khairan, thank you for the brief intro. So
Well,
we'll jump right in without taking any much time. So
mhm.
the topic that we assigned to you that Alhamdulillah you accepted to walk us through today is Barakah culture versus hustle culture. So if you can take some time to give us an introduction to this topic. If a person just hears Barakah culture versus hustle culture, what should come to their mind? What should they be thinking about?
All right. First thing I would like to say is that when I discovered that I was given this topic, I
Mhm.
was happy about the topic compared to others because it's a topic that touches generally on our lives as human beings, and
Mhm.
particularly on our lives as Muslims, specifically on our lives as Muslims.
No,
And when you hear Barakah culture for the first time and hustle culture, you'd be like, how does it relate? Why is it Barakah culture versus hustle culture? But then just takes you understand the meaning of both concepts. What does hustle mean in itself? We are Nigerians who are familiar with the term hustle. They'll be like, hustle, oh, no one is going to feed you. Hustle, oh,
mm,
we use hustle a lot as Nigerians. But basically, hustle has to do with putting a lot of effort in your work and that's to achieve success. Success as we know
no,
it as material success, you know. So hustle culture generally would then mean putting a lot of effort in order to gain material success. And hustle culture generally, there's no demarcation as to what kind of work. This is just hustle. Hustle, oh, hustle. Your mates are hustling. What are you doing here? Your mates are doing this. Give you examples.
just do some
Some
work, any
examples.
work.
Just yes, just do some work and you to make a living for yourself and do well for
No,
yourself. But when you talk about Baraka culture, you're talking about understanding that our risk comes from Allah.
sorry.
Understanding that whatever we have, whatever we earn, is from Allah. Understanding that Allah can put divine increase in places, in things, in people. Understanding that Allah is the one that blesses whatever we do. So because of that, you're always trying to please Allah in the course of living your life. So in hustle culture, in Baraka culture, pardon, you will consider living a life whereby you get benefits in both the spiritual and the material aspect of life. So when you think about hustle culture and Baraka culture, the main difference is hustle culture, living a life, working hard in order to get material benefits. Unlike Baraka
Okay.
culture, focuses on both material and spiritual benefits.
I see. What you're trying to point out is in both situations, you kind of technically hustle. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the hard work.
Yes,
You have to put in the hours either way. But the difference is that while one is more focused on the material culture, the other one is focused on spiritual and material success. They're like
yes,
intertwined for the person that's seeking barakah.
yes, yes.
No.
Yeah.
Also, I was gonna, if you're going to go on, please go on. I just wanted to make that comment.
All right, all right,
Like,
all right. So earlier I mentioned that when you hear Baraka culture versus hustle culture, you ask yourself, why are they compared? Why are they put against each other? And there are
mhm.
two. To me, I would say there are two basic reasons why why Barakah culture and hustle culture are put together for us Muslims. Of course, Barakah culture only makes sense to us as Muslims. A non-Muslim doesn't really know what you mean by Barakah culture. But as Muslims, there are two main reasons why you consider both aspects, because we are human beings and we are Muslims. So the first one is the fact that as Muslims, we understand that Islam is a way of life for us because Allah already provided how we should live our lives. Everything has been provided for us. The ways by which we can earn a living, the kind of things we eat, the kind of things we should not eat, the way we should behave, the way we should not behave, it has all been provided for us by Allah. And we understand that our whole way of life must conform with Islam. Now, if you say hustle, you mean that even other types of work that are legal are halal? Not all legal work is halal. For example, if you're a money lender that lends someone money, at the end of the day, you collect the money with interest. It's legal. Being a money lender is legal, of course. But as a Muslim, is it halal? That's what you have to consider.
Just to come in a little bit. So yeah, you're differentiating legal as in legal in the eyes of the law, like the
Of
Nigerian
the law, yes.
constitution.
Exactly, in
Okay.
that aspect. Yes, 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 yes.
As
And
opposed to
then you
like perhaps it being halal or mubah, permissible under Islamic law.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
We have said, and here, as Muslims, Allah already told us that يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة. All you who have believed, enter into the religion completely. Enter into Islam completely. That is, follow everything which Allah has said completely. Follow all what has been laid down for us completely. Therefore, you must live your life according to Islam. You must therefore see, okay, this is how people are living around me. Is this the right way according to the religion I have submitted to? Then the other aspect of it is looking at it on having a long-term view of life. As Muslims, we consider that our life isn't just on this dunya alone. We have a life,
Yeah.
dunya, yes. So you look at the first aspect that I said earlier is looking at it as, okay, are we living our lives according to Islam? That's the first one, why you compare Barakah culture and hustle culture. While the second aspect is looking at it as, okay, this our life is not just, we have the journey of our souls, the part of it that's in this dunya and part of it that's in the hereafter. And of course,
Yeah.
how do you prepare for the hereafter? It is by putting in the work in this dunya. And how do you put in the work in this dunya? By living your life accordingly, by sowing the seed here in order to reap the fruits in the hereafter. It is by being conscious of our actions and ensuring that we reap we sow the right seeds in order to reap them in the hereafter.
أنا يعني ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد. Person should look at
Exactly,
to that which
exactly,
this
exactly.
one.
Yeah. So the main differences between hustle culture and Barakah culture, I'll reiterate them here. I reiterated about six. I wrote about six main differences that I brought down before this webinar. The first one, we talk about definition of success. When we talk about hustle culture, focus on the wealth, the status, your career achievements. That's all you're thinking about. You'll be like, oh, that person owns $1 billion business. He owns $1 million business. Whatever, that's all you're thinking of. And you keep
All
striving.
materialistic, pretty much.
Exactly. You're working and working and working. You're like, okay, this sleepless night, I'm sure that in the future, I'm going to have so much money. I'll be a multimillionaire. What if you don't become a multimillionaire? Then you become depressed because your whole life you've been working and working. Because to you, success is working so hard. You have to have that material success, of course. But then when it has to be Barakah culture, on the other hand, when you define success, you consider inner peace. You do your part and then you rely on Allah. You understand that whatever you do, you're only doing your part and you only get that which Allah already ordained for you to get. Because of that, you have inner peace and you also believe that all your blessings come from Allah. Knowing that our blessings come from Allah make you content. Contentment is something that is very important. For hustle, when you live life according to just hustle alone, you would not be content. You're always racing, running and running and running for the next big achievement. Unlike when you focus on just the barakah that you have in your life, the things that you already have that you can be grateful for. The other one is work ethic. When it has to do with hustle culture, you measure how good you work by how long and how hard you work. But then for Barakah culture, focus on hard work with trust in Allah.
Mm.
Hard work with trust in Allah.
Yes, no.
Then the other aspects of hustle culture and Barakah culture is in hustle culture, focus on just being busy, busy, busy. Your whole time is focused on work. If you're not working, you're resting. You be like, nobody should disturb me. I want to work. All I care about now is how to hustle and get to where I want.
Mm.
But in Barakah culture, you have time for worship, you have time for family, you have time for yourself, you have time for work on its own. You're able to
A
consider
time
all
for
those people that have
time for
rights over
this
you.
and a time for that, as it came in the hadith. I think that's the hadith you're about to quote, so please go on.
Exactly. You're able to consider you're able to assimilate or let's say put together working for the hereafter and working for the dunya. You do not separate them, you put them together. So you create time for worship. When it's like, okay, you're at work, but it's time for salah. You leave your work, pray the salah, and come back to work. So you're able to create time for everything. If you live a life according to Barakah culture, you think of how to get better as a Muslim. The thing is you could use your time to do that will earn you reward for the hereafter. If it is teaching, learning more about the Quran, learning more about Islam, memorizing it, teaching it, creating time for your nightly prayers, that's your tahajjud. Unlike when you live your life focusing on work alone, you've worked throughout the whole day till late night, and then you are sleeping throughout the whole night because you're so tired. Then you wake up the following morning and continue. It's just a cycle. You continue over and over again, working and working and working until you die. But for Baraka culture, you're able to create time for worship and create time for work. The other aspect is similar to the one I just said, spirituality. Also, culture does
Yeah.
not recognize spirituality. It does not. It's often neglected when it has to do with hustle culture.
And even if it is recognized sometimes, it's not seen as an end in itself. It's seen as how can I be spiritual so I can make more money? What type of spirituality can make me more money?
Exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
I was even thinking of getting that maybe later, but then now that you said it, let me talk more about it because that's why you find that many some people become they do not believe in God anymore after they make money because they will say, at the time when I believed in God, I was poor, and then
Yeah.
I worked and I earned my money, so it wasn't God that gave me the money; it was my work that brought the money to me.
Ah.
That's one thing that hustle bring to you can cost to you. I've seen persons, I don't know them personally, but I've seen them. They are also on. If you're active on Twitter, you find some of them and be like, yeah, I was so and so. I believe in so and so religion before I was adherent of so and so religion, but then I was poor. I was wasting my time believing in God. But then when I put in the actual work, I got the money. That's one thing that hustle culture will make you believe in. Believing that you're only worshiping God to earn money.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
the it
Baraka
I
culture.
think uh there was something I mentioned. I think there's a verse that captures it perfectly in the Quran. When like if somebody is given something, says inama utituhu ala ilm, that I've been given this thing ala ilmin indi, that this thing that I've been given is because of my efforts. It is because of my
Yeah,
knowledge. Very
my
similar to the
knowledge.
verses in Surah Al-Kahf. The two people that were having this discussion about, you have a garden, the other one does not have
Yeah,
garden, and he was saying, like even if I die and I was to go to the hereafter, Allah will give me something like this or something better than that. So it's a very kind
that's
of
it.
twisted understanding that it is your
That's
efforts
also kind of
solely.
arrogance.
Yes, yes. Now, like Allah said, "Agwa istegna." Mankind think themselves independent, so like they don't need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in achieving their goals. So it's like you said, it's perfectly just that way. It's a type of arrogance where you believe like you're independent, you're knowledgeable enough, your hard work is what can give you all of this blessings. Now,
Now, So we already said spirituality is often neglected for also culture, but for Barakah culture, similar to what I said earlier, you integrate worship of Allah into your daily life. Sometimes you think of performing your voluntary fasting, then you'd be like, for the whole of today, I'll be busy and I'll be tired, I'll need to eat. Then the funny thing is, for the whole of that, you wouldn't even have time to eat. And you'd be like, why didn't I just fast?
I understand.
So you see, when you
Um,
live your life doing that, Allah is the one that does everything for you. You would put that effort to ensuring that you get that reward on that part and get that reward on this other part too in this
it's
dunya.
smart, man.
Finally, the other distinction, last distinction between hustle culture and Baraka culture is decision making. In hustle culture, you say if it makes money, just do it. It makes money, it doesn't kill anybody, do it. Are
And
you
some
hurting
people do kill
anybody?
people. Some
Exactly. So,
people do kill people. Some
but
people
then
do kill
generally,
people
you'll be
for
like, you're not
money.
hurting anybody, you're not killing anybody, so do it.
Yeah.
But when you're living your life according to Baraka culture, you're like, okay, what does Allah say about this? What does Islam say about this? Is this
Yeah.
how will I present myself for Allah when Allah asks me about this? Because I know it's wrong, but I want to do this.
Yeah.
So for that's the last section between hustle culture and Baraka culture, and this is how the reasons why you would
So
consider as a
so
Muslim hustle culture versus Baraka culture.
no, I think those reasons are very beautiful. Talked about the definition of success. It's quite different. Hustle and barker culture. Hustle culture is wealth, status, career achievements, worldly achievements, fame, power, XYZ. And Barker culture is focused more on like inner peace, blessings, and Allah's assistance, tawfiq from Allah. And I know, obviously, a person can also achieve those other things, but just kind of matter of priority. Talked about like work ethic. If a person is hustling, if they're so focused on the hustle, they overwork themselves and they get stressed out. But when a person is doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like, أساسا احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله or فاتقوا الله ما استطعتم. You do what you're able to do and you don't burden yourself with more than that. And like the
Yes.
quote, you also mentioned that, a person there's a time for this and a time for that. Your body has a right on you, your family has a right on you, and other things like that you mentioned. And you
Yeah.
added some more, but I think one of the ones that kind of stuck to me most importantly is the fact that spirituality under hustle culture is usually neglected. It's usually neglected. Unless if it's because there was a paper once I read, it was actually written by a rabbi, somebody, a sheikh mentioned it and he said that we should look it up. And I talked about egotistic spirituality, where a person actually might be spiritual, but their spirituality is extremely egotistical. They're not trying to get closer to Allah. So look at the example like the Buddhists, they're only talking about meditation, this and that, clearing your mind, but it is tazkiyah to nafs li nafs. They are purifying themselves for themselves, you know.
Mm,
And on the flip side, this Muslim has done what tazkiyah to nafs li rabbihi. So his person is purifying themselves because they want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these things are
mm.
I just wanted to like reiterate the points that you made. So in case our audience wanted to pick one or two things again. So I guess like a question for you would be, and I'm going to take it that this is like perhaps one of the next things that you've prepared to tell us about. How can a person live a life that is focused on barakah instead of just hustle? What are some things that a person can do, or what are some tips? What are some, will I say, concepts, some lessons that a person can imbibe in their life that can assist them in living a life that is barakah seeking?
All right. Well, there are various things you can do as a Muslim to live your life according to Barakah. Living your life according to Islam, living your life according to the commandments of Allah, living your life obeying Allah and His Messenger. The first thing I'll mention is taqwa. You usually
Mm,
hear taqwa, fear Allah, fear Allah. But what does that even mean? Does it actually mean fear Allah? Fear Allah for taqwa is just a loose translation of taqwa.
mhm.
A better explanation would be, a better meaning would be God conscious, or being conscious of Allah.
Being careful
It's
of Allah. Yeah.
yeah, careful about the actions we take as Muslims. This is the word taqwa. It comes from the root word waqa and ya. And the Bedouin Arabs, they had that's pre-Islamic Bedouin Arabs. They
Yeah.
used this word to explain the situation of a horse. when a horse already lost its horseshoe, or when it is walking on an over rough terrain, when a horse loses its horseshoe, you have to be careful about how it works. To be walking
Wow.
carefully to avoid injury.
Mm.
That's when they usually use this wa qa'aniya at the time, the Islamic era. So what we can say here is that we're being careful about the actions we take, the things we do, the things we say, how we live our lives. Unlike the horse, we're not avoiding injury. What we're avoiding here is we're avoiding the displeasure of Allah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes. So if you actually imbibe taqwa in your life, you would of course live a life of barakah because you are considering at all times. Okay, let's use the example of our 5 daily prayers which we encounter every single day. If you live a life of barakah, you wouldn't you if you're in at a workplace where you have to join your prayers together every single day, you wouldn't be happy in such a place because
Allah
each
subhanahu.
prayer has its own time. And you'll be thinking of, excuse me, you'll be thinking of how to pray each prayer at its allocated time because you're trying to avoid what? Displeasure of Allah. Allah says in Surah Al-Talaq, وَمَنْ يَتَّكِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And whoever fears Allah, whoever is conscious of Allah, Allah will make for him a way out. A way out of what? Every difficulty. So you're in a difficult situation. This is not by your efforts. Fear Allah, Allah will make a way out for you. Part of fearing Allah, imbibing taqwa again, is sometimes we usually as humans might be in their situations, we are in their need. But then there are temptations around you, ways by which you can get that money, you can get that thing that you need to do. But then you know that okay, you're conscious of Allah, you're trying to avoid his displeasure. Because of that, you do away with those temptations. You hold yourself, you control yourself from falling into those temptations, believing that وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ
وجعل
لَهُ.
له مخرجا.
um, The second way by which we can live a life of barakah is
Can
having
I
tawakkul.
pause it for a little bit? So
Yes, please.
I just need to like add on to what you said about taqwa.
Now,
And the verse that you quoted, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever is conscious of Allah, uh, is
to make a way
Allah
out
subhanahu wa
for
ta'ala will
him.
make a way out for him. You know, a lot of
Now,
times actually when people find themselves in the hustle culture mentality, you know, some people like actually like they're very wealthy. Some people are actually very
mm,
wealthy. They're very Allah has blessed them a lot. But because of that hustle culture mentality, they are not satisfied. They're always chasing more. Now, there are other people
now,
that perhaps the last people has tested them by like poverty or lack of means. So instead of them to وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا, and sometimes to be honest, we as well fall into this. Instead of us to be patient in these situations and stick to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, we will go against taqwa trying to find a way out, which is like it's just mind-bogglingly contradictory. Because Allah is saying here that if you're conscious of me, I will give you a way out. Then imagine a person who is trying to find a way out in that which goes against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's just like you're just digging a pit you're already in. So it's I just wanted to, make that connection that, we should be careful, uh when we are in tight situations, that's exactly when we need more taqwa. But as like for us, sometimes it's in those tight situations that we say, oh, how can I, find a shortcut to attaining that goal that we mean. So I think it also
now,
ties back to the next thing you're about to talk about. If a person is
well,
in a tight situation, they definitely need tawakkul. They need to trust in Allah subhanahu wa
now,
ta'ala to take them out of it. So
now.
please, now you can go
Yeah.
on.
Before I proceed, let me add more on what you said about taqwa. You know,
Mm,
one thing we should understand about dunya is the dunya is a test. Whether you're in a good situation or in a bad situation, it is always a test. Although
mm,
for we humans, the bad situation is usually harder on us. Because the good
mm,
situation, you're healthy, you have the money, you have whatever you want. It's a test because you could fall into arrogance. You could fall, we talked about this earlier, the fact that you start feeling self-sufficient. You could fall
yeah.
into arrogance. You could lack contentment, yes. And when you're not content, you'll find it hard to be grateful. You will lack gratefulness. You won't be grateful to Allah. So that one too is a test. But we humans, of course, when you're in a bad situation, whether it's money, or when it has to do with our health, or the one of our
Yeah.
loved ones, or any other thing, it's usually harder on us. And in such
No.
situations, we have to always remind ourselves that this dunya is a test. And no matter how much temptation, it's a reminder for all of us, because we're all humans, so far as you're still alive. you're still you're still in it. So we have to keep reminding ourselves and keep praying to Allah to strengthen our hearts, to be able to hold on to Him and to have the taqwa and always be conscious of Him. Because anything you do, you might try to like rationalize that, yeah, Allah knows that I'm in this bad situation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the thing is, are you deceiving yourself or deceiving? You can't deceive Allah no matter what.
Steady.
You're only deceiving yourself at the end of
No.
the day. So
May
yes,
Allah
let's go
protect
back
us.
to now. Okay, tawakkul. What is tawakkul? We hear of tawakkul, tawakkul, tawakkul. Tawakkul is a trust in Allah. It is reliance in Allah. And as human beings, as far as we are alive, one thing we always need, always, and always need is tawakkul. Trusting in Allah, having full reliance in Allah, trusting that Allah knows why we do not know. There are many times things do not work out the way we want. You put so much effort in an investment, and then, well, it doesn't go the way you wish it should go. You read and read and read, but you couldn't get an A in that course. You
Exactly.
tried your best, spent money, spent time, spent effort for a loved one to get well, and but then they died after everything. But then you have to understand that you trust Allah. Allah knows what is best for you, and that He knows why you do not know. We see an example in Surah Al-Kahf when Prophet Musa alayhi salam um went on that journey with Dhul Kifl, right? And
With with Khidr now.
Nam, Nam. And because of the journey, he was like, do not ask me any question. I mean that you will not be patient, but do not ask me any question. But the thing is, for everything that happened, he couldn't just hold himself. He kept asking, why would you do that? At first, he destroyed the boats of a poor family. I'm like, why would you do such a thing? You did something very terrible. But that one said, didn't I tell you not to ask me any question? But at the end of the day, what did we finally learn? Finally learned that there was a king who was seizing every good boat. And if that one was not destroyed, he would have seized it, and what? And the family would have lost their livelihood. Now, if the boat was destroyed, if there was a hole in the boat, it wouldn't be seized, but then family will be able to repair it and still use it as a means of livelihood. What I'm trying to say here is that the family, they wouldn't understand what happens. They'll be like, oh, how did this boat get spoiled? Not knowing that Allah had sent someone to destroy it for their own sake, for their own benefits. So tawakkul is reliance on Allah, knowing that He knows why we do not know. Because the truth is, we as humans, even if you ask us, like, what happened 2 years ago, we ask anybody, you can't see everything that happened 2 years ago. But Allah knows everything that has happened right from, He knows everything about us. Even of the present, you can't know everything going. Even sometimes something is going on right in front of you. You wouldn't really know that it's going on. But Allah knows all that, and is the one that also knows the future. So knowing all this will help us to be able to build tawakkul. Allah knows, while I do not know. If you have tawakkul, you will do your part and do what? You trust in Allah. It's just like when we were discussing earlier, the distinction between Barakah culture and hustle culture, saying that when it has to do with hustle culture, you keep hustling, seeing success as wealth, as status, as career achievements. But for Barakah culture, you do your part and do what? Rely on Allah for the best outcome. And how does tawakkul help you in your daily life? How does it help you as a Muslim to live your life generally? It helps to remove or reduce anxiety. Anxiety in the sense of, oh, am I doing the best thing? What I'm doing going to work? Is it going to work? You just do your part, do your best, and wait for the best outcome from Allah. Having tawakkul also helps you to shun haram. We mentioned taqwa earlier, trying to
Yeah.
avoid when you're in their need, trying to avoid what do you call it, temptations, yes, even though you are in their need. With tawakkul, reliance of Allah, sorry, with tawakkul, reliance of Allah, you'll be able to shun haram because you know that Allah is the one, you trust in Him to be able to help to find a way out of every difficulty.
Every
And
situation, yeah.
tawakkul involves some particular things. It involves sincere effort on your part. It involves full trust in Allah in the outcome. It also involves the last thing, being content in His decree. That is very, very
Read bil
important.
qada.
Because sometimes we trust in Allah and then we have some particular expectations in our mind saying, okay, I trust in Allah, and this is what will happen. But then we are not the ones to define the decree of Allah. So
Yeah.
you put in the effort, have full trust in Allah, and then being content in Allah's decree. And since Surah Al-Talaq, after وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا, Allah says, وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Reliance of Allah we make Allah sufficient for you without having to rely on anyone. We have had a process and where he said, if you were to rely upon Allah with due reliance, He would provide for you as He provides for the birds. They go out in the morning with empty stomachs and return full. Do your part. The birds go out, they don't just stay in their nest, they put that effort, they go out, but you don't know where they'll get food from, and they come back with full stomach every single day. And the funny thing is, you wouldn't even know the importance or how in-depth work is until you feel some particular things in your life. A few years ago, I was doing an internship at a particular office at a law firm a few years ago. On this particular day, I was I was broke at that period. I was very broke. On that particular day, I was thinking, okay, the only money I have now is a transportation fare. And I was very hungry. And the office was very empty. Ordinarily, if the lawyers were around, I might get some work. I might say, okay, Nima, do this, Nima, do that. And then they'll be like, okay, take this for lunch, take this for transportation fare. But on that day, the office was very empty and I was very hungry. I was so hungry. I started praying to Allah, oh Allah, please provide something for me to eat. And I was just praying to Allah. And then while I was there, the secretary of the law firm who was around at that time. And she was like, Nima, I'm also hungry too. Do you have money? I don't have money. Do you have money? I said, yes, I have money, but what I want to get is corn. But like, okay. After some time, she was like, Nima, follow me to the place I'm going to get corn. At that time, I was very praying, like, oh, Allah, please just help me out of this. I'm very hungry. I need something to eat. So I was just praying, in my mind. And the secretary was like, Nima, please follow me to go and get corn. I didn't want to go because I'm like, I'm hungry and I'm tired and you want me to go under the sun with you. I'm not going. She was like, please, Kuma, just follow me. Let's go and get this corn. And I followed her to get the corn. When I got to the first shop, the woman didn't have corn. She was like, Nima, please, let's go forward. I'm like, I said I didn't want to go at first. And now we have to go forward again. I'm hungry, I'm tired, and we're under the sun. She said, please
And
just.
it's just funny. Yes. Like it's
And I followed
compounded. The issues are compounded. So
exactly. I followed her to the next shop. So she was like, okay, please give me this corn. I want this one. So we were just standing. She received the call and left me. Like, please, Nima, please wait for me. Somebody's calling me. Then she left. Then she came back. She was like, okay, Nima, Barrister IG, that's one of the lawyers from the law firm. The thing is, close to where we went to get corn. That's the second place we went to get corn. There was a court. So one of the lawyers saw us while we were standing at the corn stand. So that was the person that called her that called her to come forward. So she like, Nima, Barrister IJ is calling us. Then we went to meet Barrister IJ. Then Barrister IJ said, oh, Nima, how are you doing? I was like, yeah, I was at the office and everything. Then she introduced us to her client. Said, this is my client. We were at the court together and everything. What do you want? At that moment, I was like, okay, please come and get what you want. She got so under constant. She's like, okay, pick the corns you want to. Is that enough for you? Pick as much as you want. Take pear, take groundnuts. And we got corn and groundnuts and everything. And went back to the office. And she was not asking us, is that enough for you? Do you want more corn? Do you want more groundnuts? And I went back to the office that day. I ate the corn. I ate the groundnuts. I took water. I was even tired of chewing. I was like, Subhanallah. I was hungry some moments ago. I didn't even know where I was going to come from. I was praying to Allah for something to come. And then Allah took me out of this office to where I was going to get something. So that's
without
like
even
tawakkul.
expecting it.
Exactly, without even expecting. It's just okay. The effort was going out of that office, even though I didn't even want to, but Allah directed me. See, Allah made all the whole scenario to happen. Took taking me out of that, let's say, comfort zone inside the office where
Mhm.
that was cold under the sun. But then enough for me to get what I wanted. What I was praying for was food, and food came. So that's like, to me, that's a very good example of tawakkul, putting trust in Allah, praying to Him with sincerity that He would answer our prayers.
Yes, no.
Now,
Uh,
so the next,
I was going to say like before you moved on to the next one, I was just going to make the point of sometimes when we make istikhara and we said Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmika wa astakhiruka biqudratika up until the end. Allahumma in kunta ta'lam anna hadha al-khayr anna hadha al-amr khayrun li fi dini wa then but you in your mind obviously like there's one that you want. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes his decision, that's
now,
why sometimes that's when like we begin to get fail mark. We don't get the pass mark because if you trusted Allah when you're
yes,
making that
yes,
decision, when you're making that dua, then you should be fine with whatever decision comes out of it. But then, even though we say we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then a decision comes out that is different from what we wanted when we made istikhara, then, we are like displeased and X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. I mean, sometimes it's okay to like be displeased because we're human beings. We're not like machines that can
yeah,
just switch off our emotions. But at the same time, like you mentioned, one of the most important parts of tawakkul is aqida bil qada. So once a person, maybe you have hustled, you've put in the hard work in the halal way, in fact, in the permissible way, but it does not come out like the way you want. It's you have to be pleased with Allah's
mm,
decisions. That I trust Allah
mm,
that what He has done for me is the best. It's Allah wa antum muqinina bil ijaba. You should make dua to Allah. You
mm.
should trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would answer you. So He has answered you, and this is the best answer. So now, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Now,
make tawakkul easy.
now, just to even add that to that, it was the example I just gave about myself from a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about humans is we get carried away with our imaginations.
Allah
You
Akbar.
know, pray to Allah, saying, "Okay, Allah, please, I pray to you with full tawakkul. Like, I know that you answer my prayer." In my mind, I'm imagining rice and chicken and and so many other things. But at the end of the day, what I was praying for was, the thing is, Allah answered the prayer. I was hungry and I needed food, right? And
Mm-hmm.
food came. But as humans, our brain, when we're praying, we already have what is our imaginations. Oh, we want it to come out in this particular way. Whereas some funny thing is, if we look at it very well sometimes, what we needed, we've gotten it.
It's different.
We needed
Ah.
something and then we got it. So
Speaking
yeah,
of which, now you mentioned, I remember there was one time when I was still taking my SATs, when I was still preparing for my SATs, then I made dua to Allah for just one thing. I said, Allah, say, this English is what I don't know. I just want 300 out of 400 on this English. The math and the other parts, I will handle it by myself. And you know the funniest part? Allah answered my prayer. He actually gave me 300 I wanted in the English. But the math and the other one, I did not get what what I thought I
exactly.
would get because I was like, Allah help me handle that one, me I will handle this one. So yes, Allah
Yes,
handled what I asked him to handle for me, but the one that me I wanted to
exactly.
handle on my own, well, yeah, it did not go as planned. So yes, a person should make dua comprehensively, and like you said, sometimes
Comprehensively,
when we make
yes.
dua for something specifically, we actually get that thing that we want. But because we're so
Yeah.
fixed on the way we want the dua to be answered, we don't thank Allah for that which He has actually given us. So may Allah forgive
Yeah.
us.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, that's one thing. So going forward, as humans, we should learn to be, of course, as you said, we shouldn't switch off our emotions, but we should immediately learn to correct it and be grateful for whatever we have.
Yeah.
So we've talked about taqwa, talked about tawakkul. Next point is way by which we can live our lives according to a life of barakah is understanding that risk comes from Allah.
Mm.
Our provisions comes from Allah. What do you understand by the risk or the provisions? Provisions isn't just it is let me say it is in four aspects basically. The money we spend, that's um our material what they call it needs, like material provisions, our
Yeah.
food, our wealth, our property. That's what usually when we mention risk, I think that's the first thing that comes to our head. Money, property, food, that's what comes to our head first. Risk. But risk, that's just one aspect of the risk that comes from Allah. Another risk Another aspect of risk that comes from Allah is our health. That's the
Mm,
physical aspect, our health, our well-being, health and mental, psychological, emotional, physical. It is all from Allah. The other part of risk is spiritual aspects, our iman,
yeah,
the wisdom we have, because the knowledge we have, even our intelligence. Because the funny thing is, find out that there's some things that you read and you understand immediately. And there's some persons that will read that thing over and over and over again, and they wouldn't be able
not
to
to not to
assimilate it.
no.
And you find those that are better than you in that aspect, find those that are worse than you in that aspect. At the end of the day, it is just this is part of the risk of Allah, giving you the ability to be able to read and understand, to be able to understand some particular things that some people cannot understand. And the last part again of risk is the love, contentment, peace. They're all risk. Because if you look at people, when we talk about hustle culture, some people work and work. They just their whole life is okay. I want to have money. I want to. They are working and that's to be able to put food on the table, to have extra money, to go on vacations, and it's just a cycle over and over and over. And then you're like, okay, why am I even alive? Why am I even living? Some people commit suicide. Some people end up
This
doing things that will
definitely.
excite them. Some people get into bad habits, do bad things because they're like, okay, their emotions are there. They need to wake them up. Like when they're excited when you do these particular things. But then when you have Islam and you believe fully, you have a kind of peace. That peace too. That's firstly knowing the reason for your creation. Why were you created to worship Allah and living your life according to that gives you peace. And that peace too is a form of risk from Allah. So risk is basically for the material, food, wealth, property, the spiritual, iman, wisdom, knowledge, the guidance, emotional, that is like love, contentment, peace, and then the physical, which is health and well-being. When you understand that your provisions come from Allah, then in the search of this provision, what do? You obey Him. Because at the end of the day, it is not your effort that brings the provision. This is what is Allah that gives you that particular provision. If you look at Surah Al-Hud, verse 6, Allah said, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا وَيَعْلَمُ مُسْتَقَرَّهَا وَمُسْتَوْدَعَهَا. And there is no creature on earth, but that upon Allah is its provisions, and He knows its place of dwelling and place of storage.
Mm,
We also have Quran 29, Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 60, Allah says, وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا اللَّهُ يَرْزُقُهَا وَإِيَّاكُمْ. And how many a creature carries not its own provision, Allah provides for it and for you. If you understand, as I said earlier, risk comes from Allah, then why exactly are you doing something haram? Why are you disobeying Him in order to get that risk if He's the one that's still going to provide it for you? So this is the third point. Taqwa, tawakkul, understanding that risk comes from Allah. Would you like to add something?
no, I was going to like Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah in his discussion of when it comes to tawakkul and taqwa. I mean Imam Al-Ghazali has something very similar. He says that there is nothing that's self-sufficient among the creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that's al-Ghani. If he wants to bring about an effect, he just brings about the effect immediately. But then at the same time, a person needs to bring about like the causes, take the things, the beneficial things. But even if you do bring up the beneficial things, you have not removed the harmful things. Like the scholars call this principle وجود الشروط وانتفاء الموانع. That a person, when a person wants to achieve a goal, they need to bring about the conditions that will help them attain that goal, and they also need to take out those things, those factors that will prevent that goal from being achieved. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if we do bring about those, if we bring about the conditions to attain to get a risk, it is Allah that removes those things that will prevent us from getting that risk. So therefore, is one that gives us the
Mhm.
risk. And even if
Exactly.
the conditions that will prevent those things to be attained, like those risks to be attained, have been that will prevent them from being attained, have been removed by Allah, and you bring the conditions that will attain that risk for you. it does not still mean you attain it because la hawla wala quwwata illa billah. So having the
Yeah.
conditions, having the material conditions, it's not sufficient. You still need that kind of approval from Allah that's okay, this would happen. That's number one. I think something else that you mentioned there was that you said spiritually there's intellectually, there's physically, there's emotionally. And I think one thing that's very important is that's very beautiful with the way you put it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Wala bastallahu rizqa li ibadihi labaghaw fil ard." If Allah were to expand the risk for all of his servants, people would be like they would how do I translate the bag fil ard? Like they would be pompous. They would do negative things on earth. That's why like sometimes Allah reduces our risk to keep us humble. That's number one. Because you look at some of the advanced countries that have so much in terms of material wealth. How many of them actually worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Very little. Like not much. And even if they worship Allah, they also do shirk, some of them, the ones that are Christians among them, they still commit shirk. And there's the fact that while these things can be seen as uh, provisions from Allah, it also means that when a person does not have it, a person is poor in a particular aspect of life. So a person can have
Mm.
material wealth but spiritual poverty. Another person can have
Yeah.
spiritual wealth, material poverty. Another person can have physical wealth, that's their body is okay, but spiritual poverty.
Mm.
Another person might have intellectual wealth, their minds are good, but
Mm.
physical poverty. So like all these things are up, down, up, down. Yeah, like all of them are on a scale. And just as you
Yeah.
mentioned, because a person has poverty in a certain aspect does not mean they should violate Allah's rulings and get it. Quite interesting, and this even happens when it comes to practicing the deen. There are people that, when they want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they dance, they sing, they do things that are bid'ah, in order to just attain that spiritual wealth. But you can't attain spiritual wealth except by the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated. So Jazakumullah khairan for that very important point. Rizq is from Allah. And our actions are not sufficient to help us attain this rizq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that, approves which of our actions would be fruitful. So it goes back to the point of tawakkul. Jazakumullah khairan, please go ahead.
Now, the fourth point is understanding that the aim of our creation is to worship Allah alone.
Hmm.
Allah said in Surah Al-Dhariyat, وَمَا خَلَقْتَ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me.
No,
Worshipping Allah is not only the things that, because there are many of us, even as Muslims, we kind of forget or miss the point on what worshipping Allah entails. We think, okay, I'm praying Salah, and when it's time for Ramadan, I perform the Psalm, and when I have money, I go for Hajj. Some people pay their zakah. And they're like, yeah, that's it. So I'm worshiping Allah. That's it. But worshiping Allah goes beyond that. As I said, Islam, you would submit totally. Obeying Him is part of it. Worshiping Allah, trying to please Him, doing even the things that are considered the most minutes, is part of worshiping Him. If you're able to understand that your whole aim, you are a servant of Allah, and your whole aim of creation is worshiping Allah, you'll find it easier to integrate. We mentioned earlier, difference between hustle culture and Barakah culture, integrating spiritual and the material,
no,
integrating the pursuit of spiritual and material. Of course, as far as you're in this dunya, you have to work hard for the things you want. You have to provide for yourself, for your family, for all those that rely on you, for even those that are not your family. You have to provide for that. You also try to earn so that you too you'll be able to earn rewards from that. That's when you give out for the sake of Allah. You earn rewards for that, of course. Sometimes you're not even hungry. You have that you have food to eat, you have a house to live in, but you're like, oh, I wish I could have more so I'll be able to give out for the sake of Allah.
no,
That's you may want to look at it, but that's by the way. But then all that is that we understand that in doing all that, our aim is should be to worship Allah. In that sense, every action we take, every word, our intention will be to seek Allah's pleasure. We might be walking to our place of work, and then we see something harmful on the road, and then what do? We move from the road just to seek the pleasure of Allah. My dad, see, you're walking, what you're doing is you're walking to work, but what do? You pick something harmful from the road. so that others wouldn't get harmed by it. It's part of it. You integrate worship with your life.
It's your
As you're
life. Yeah.
working, yes, while you're working, maybe you're doing something at work, but you don't really have, at that instant, you're not really using your brain. You're just using your hand maybe to type something and all that. Your mind isn't really in that thing because at that moment it doesn't require much of your faculties. You can just be doing your dhikr, like you're just doing maybe like if you're subhanallah hamdi subhanallah like at car at that moment, just to end the reward. It's not just okay, it's time for salah, you pray. No, you integrate, do all this little things that you consider little, and they will all come together for you as a Muslim. And that's end that reward for the hereafter. As I'm working for this doing, it's not just saying, okay, and during the daytime, aside from Salah, I'm doing my homework. And at night, I'll create some time. I'll recite the Quran, and then I'll perform tahajjud, and that will be it. It's just those few minutes, few hours within your day, within your life, because it is your whole life. Worshipping Allah is your whole life. And then it also helps to also purify our intentions for many things that we do, understanding that our aim is doing what Allah loves, is doing what
Okay.
pleases Allah. And then our statements, our actions, both inward and outward, will be also please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Jazakumullah khairan. That's another very important one. That's we should always center ibadah in our life. And I think we last week when we spoke to the couple, the pharmacist and the interior designer, I think they mentioned this. Once a person integrates worship in every aspect of their life and they see every single thing they are doing as an act of ibadah, then it makes it more likely for them to seek Allah's pleasure and less likely for them to do something that would, make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala displeased with them. So I think it's a very integral aspect, just like you've mentioned in Baka culture, that a person in seeking barakah and looks at their entire life as a form of ibadah. So even when they are seeking money, it's a form of ibadah, so they can feed themselves, feed their families, XYZ, XYZ. So in doing that, you don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by displeasing him. You worship him by pleasing him. So that's another way
Mm.
that a person can get more and more barakah in their life. Jazakumullah khairan. Now,
Yeah. Now, the next point, fifth point, is understanding that true success is the hereafter. You understand that in the Quran it's mentioned a lot of times that um إنما الحياة الدنيا لهو ولعب. You also have Surah Al-Kahf where it's mentioned that المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا. All these things, the things we amass, the money, because having children is a form of wealth. The money we have, the houses, the property, the children, those things are very fickle. They are vain. They are things that we could lose within the blink of an eye. You hear of families that lose 3 children. Maybe they'll say they had their car accidents and all the children died. These are people that be like, oh, I have kids at home. I have 3 kids. The kids are grown. You're happy that you have kids. You have a good home, everything, and then within the blink of an eye, they are gone. You have a house. Anything could happen. It could be a natural disaster. The house is gone. It could not. It could be something maybe like a fire outbreak within the house, electrical issue, one thing, just something, and the house is gone. The money you think you have, you say, okay, let me just, this is an example. Oh, let me invest this money. So this is like one of the biggest risks I'm taking. But if it should work, it's going to give me, I'm going to have like 1,000% return on investments. And
yeah.
then you're duped. Something happens. It doesn't work out. And you're back to square zero.
Yeah.
All the things we consider success in this world, they are fickle, they are vain, they can be gone within the blink of an eye. But things the hereafter, whatever you have sowed, you sow for the hereafter. It's constant. You reap it. Allah has said in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 200 that there are those that say, what they call it, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ. And among people are those who say, our Lord, give us in this world, and He will have in the hereafter no share. And then there are those among them are those who say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً
Okay.
وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Our Lord, give us in this world that which is good, and the hereafter that which is good. So we can see that here, you don't. It's not as if you shun the whole dunya as a whole. Pray for good in this dunya, but do not forget to pray for the good of the hereafter. Because no matter how much you think of it, no matter how, even if you live your whole life in wealth, you're born with a silver spoon, you live your whole life happy, wealthy, with good health and everything. Your life in this world is very short compared to the whole journey of your soul. So whatever success you think you have in this life, you will leave it behind. And that one of the hereafter is the true success. Whatever you're able to get from there is yours. We have hadith of Prophet Ibn
All right.
Majah, where he
So,
said, whoever is focused only on this world, Allah will confound his affairs and make him fear poverty constantly. And he will not get anything of this world except that which he has decreed for him. But whoever is focused on the hereafter, Allah will settle his affairs and make him feel content with his lot, and his provisions and worldly gains will undoubtedly come to him. Will undoubtedly come to him. The thing is, when you're focused on this dunya, I have money. If I don't work hard, this money will leave me, this money will leave me, this money will leave. Yeah, you're just working and running after the world until you enter into your grave. At the end of the day, while we were in the wombs of our mothers, we already learned that the angel will come and then write. The angel will come and write all what does the risk, everything that always
that's
enjoy while on this
risky.
earth.
No.
So no matter what you do,
No.
no matter what you do, you wouldn't get more than what has been ordained for you. So you have to consider that work hard for this world, but at the same time, work very hard for the hereafter. Work harder for the hereafter, because your true success is that of the hereafter.
No. No, I think that's another very, very powerful point. When a person redefines the idea of success and they have different KPIs, key performance indicators, it's going to affect how they approach things. You know, قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين في صلاتهم خاشعون. In this verse, they talk about al-falah. And also, like, you know, when it's time for prayer, the Mu'adhin says, Hayya ala al-falah, come to success.
Mm.
And also the verses that say in Surah Al-Shu'ara, اليوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. So, you know, if we keep in mind, قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. So if
Mm.
a person keeps in mind that success lies in having a pure soul, having a pure heart, having a content heart, a heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is
No,
pleased with, and the person is pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's
no,
number one, keeps them away from, you know, all of the evils we've mentioned that are related to just wanting this dunya for the sake of itself. And also, like, it kind of reorients them. Once your idea of success is praying 5 times a day, giving zakat when you have the money, going for hajj when you're able to, staying away from shirk, staying away from kufr and bid'ah, and uh supporting your family, helping the Muslims, and, you know, being having a close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If this is a person's idea of success, then obviously, like, the way they'll live their life would be different. Because they know, like, you know, وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِي يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. Everybody would go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment alone. So if success in the day of judgment, uh, uh like the verse came in Surah Al-Fatih, that إذن بالله عليهم درجات السواد والله عليه. That's ذلك الفوز العظيم. You know, whenever talks about this is the greatest fawz, this is the greatest success, this is the greatest achievement, you know. And that's the
no.
achievement of the year after. فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز وما الحياة الدنيا إلا
Pause.
متاع الغرور. No. So if a person, just as you said, and, you know, there's just many ayat and ahadith that reinforce, you know, this points you've mentioned. If a person does have the year after as the end goal, they would not be
Mm.
distracted by this. إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. So now, جزاكم الله خيرا for that very important point. So
No,
I was going to add that, like, we're kind of running out. We have like about 20 minutes left. So if we could mention, maybe
all right.
we could take two more points. So we have about 10 minutes towards the end to take questions,
All right.
contributions.
So the
Uh,
next point I would is that to understand that death will come at any time. This is one thing that all Muslims should always be conscious of. And the thing
uh,
is, growing up, you hear many young person like you saying, ah, And when I get older, I'll start doing so and so. When I get older, I'll start doing so and so. But the truth is, there is no guarantee that you would see tomorrow. So you have to understand as a Muslim that what they call it, that death, sorry, comes, it can come at any time. There's nowhere that it said that, oh, you have to be old or to be a particular age before you die. We usually say this thing, oh, that man that is very old, that is very close to death. It might be closer to death than him, you the young person. And you see, we have had this word said that no person dies except that he will regret. If he was righteous, he will regret not having done more. If he was wicked, he will regret not having stopped evil. So on what part do you want to be? There would always be regrets, but you have to use your time well. You have to make sure that your regret is less. Your regret is not immense. It is something less. You're the righteous, just hoping that you have done more. Let me just give an example. While I was at the university trying to get for my undergraduates, between level 1 and level 5, we lost 5 of my classmates, and we were all young persons. And it wasn't like an accident that happened and then they died or something. No, they died one after the other for different reasons. And most of the deaths were shocking deaths. And for one of all those persons, I don't think anyone was up to it. We're already by their mid-20s at the time of their deaths. But then they must have thought, many of us know at that point, like, okay, I'll finish school, then maybe I'll start working and blah blah blah. But this is just tell us that it's happened over and over again, and then just gives you this consciousness that you're not promised tomorrow. So you need to work hard, purify your intention at that moment, do things for the sake of Allah, because that is what you would only have to rely on in the hereafter. Now, that's why we have in Surah Al-Hashr, Allah said in Surah Al-Hashr, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد. So this is all you who have believed, look towards what you have saved for tomorrow. What does tomorrow here mean? Tomorrow means your hereafter, your life after death. So that's why you should always be looking forward, because death can come at any time. So let's stop procrastinating, please, and start putting all our plans into action, because death can come at any time. Now, the next point, or it might be the last point, is contentment as a Muslim. We've talked about this earlier, but then it's still contentment as a Muslim, because once you are grateful, you'll be contented. Contentment will make you to stop running, chasing after wealth. Or that's why you need to stop and ask yourself, do I actually need this thing? Is it actually required? Because at some point, you get to a place where, okay, I'm comfortable as I am. But going into this particular thing make me to have less time to worship Allah. To be able to stop this particular good deeds that I'm doing, do I really want to do it? So at that point, you can say, okay, I'm contented with what I have. Let me continue on this path that I am on, so that I'll be able to have success in this world and the hereafter. And sorry, the last point I would like to make, what I consider is very important here, is making our intentions important. Sorry, making our intentions pure and making our intentions important. We have is a hadith that we know very well, which is hadith 1 of An-Nawawi collection, innamal a'malu binniyat. All actions, for every action are judged, indeed every action judged according to intention. Please let us purify our intentions in the worship of Allah. Everything that we do in our life, let's have the right intention, and let's do it for the sake of Allah. And the reason I wanted to do this was because sometimes we lose our Muslim brothers and sisters. They fall out of the fold of Islam, and sometimes it's because of their intention. Because okay, when they were going as Muslims, sorry, they lived a life thinking that okay, I believe in Allah now, so everything will be smooth. They do every act of worship with the thought that if I'm doing this act of worship, everything will go smoothly in my life. But then when they experience one hardship, and then someone tells them, hey, I have this pastor that can pray for you. And once he prays for you, everything will be fine and okay. And you just go there. And then before you know, you'll be like, well, because I remember I had a classmate that when I was in the university who left fold of Islam. And then we're like, okay, so what happened? Why you leave Islam? She's like, the thing is, well, the pastor prayed for me and I felt something. Like, we don't understand. Like, yeah, you can't understand because we're not feeling it. Like, oh, okay. But then that's the thing. Please, let's have the right intention, understanding that this life is a test. good and bad will always happen, and that everything, our main success is in the hereafter. This world is not just for enjoyment alone. You have both the good and the bad.
But I think we're about like I think we're now at the close. But before we kind of wrap up, I just wanted to recap on the last 3 points you mentioned. The fact that deaths can come at any time, and I think that's something that should scare us. The verse in Surah Al-Muzammil says, فَكَيْفَ تَتَّقُونَ إِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ يَوْمًا يَجْعَلُ الْوِلْدَانَ شِيبًا. How can you be the conscious? How can you have taqwa in kafartum if you disbelieve? يَوْمًا يَجْعَلُ الْوِلْدَانَ شِيبًا. The day that would make Wildana, the young one, Shiba, will make him into an old person. So obviously the first step on akhirah is what is death. So فَكَيْفَ تَتَّقُونَ إِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ. If a person does not believe that they will die one day and they would go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, person does not believe in the akhirah, then to be honest, like, what's the incentive to be good? Like, what's the incentive to be a righteous person? There's not much incentive, to be honest. So that's one. Also, contentment, al-qana'a, or ar-rida bil-qada. So once a person is contented with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided them, it says, "Iqda bima qasama Allahu lak takun agna nas." Now, if a person is content with that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a portion for them. Takun agna nas, you'll be the richest of the people. So which is actually quite interesting because the richness here, obviously, it might not be like physical richness, but spiritual, emotional, psychological richness.
Yeah.
So and there's also like the last thing you mentioned is intentions. We should not expect
Mhm.
this world to be just a bed of roses. That's Jannah. Literally, Jannah is a paradise. It's a garden. So
Mhm.
and the wheel of roses, I guess, or like Jannah version of roses in Ghana. There'll be Jannah version of roses in Jannah, like Jannah type of
Yeah, yeah,
flowers in
not the
Jannah.
ones with fun.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Those three last points, I think, if we had more time, I think would have actually loved to have expanded on them more, because
Mm.
like the verse says, "فَكَيْفَ تَتَّقُونَ إِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ يَوْمًا يَجْعَلُ الْوِلْدَانَ شِيبًا." If a person does not believe in death, what should stop them from just being purely materialistic and going forward, attain whatever it is they will attain? Also, contentment. Once a person is content, and I think one of the things that's quite interesting with contentment, and you kind of like hinted at this a couple of times during like your our conversation, is that if a person is content with what Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has given them materially, they are less likely to go and violate what Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wants from them spiritually. But if a person is not contented with the material, that would violate the spiritual. Also, vice versa. Once a person is content with living a spiritual life, there would be there will be very little incentive for them to go and violate their spirituality to get something material in a negative way, in a haram way. So contentment in Allah is a very, very key, is a very, very key goal. Sometimes everybody's not going to be
Mm.
Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. He had everything, din and dunya. Like he had to the peak. He was a prophet, he was a king. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
In this world in the world we're living in, political power is the highest version of power you have, or financial power. So you had the political, you had the financial, but you also had the spiritual. He was a prophet. So like we're all going to be. In fact, nobody's going to be Suleiman ever again, because it says
Yeah.
ربي اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي. So now, I think one of the most
Mm.
important part of contentment is the fact that once we realize that we can't have it all, we have to prioritize. And the prioritization is just what? Picking the Barakah-filled life. It might not be the best life materially or physically or politically, but inshallah it's going to be the best life that which would benefit us in the year after. So Jazakumullah khairan for all
Mm.
those points. At this junction, we just maybe take about one or two comments from there's been a lot of comments actually by one of the audience, but I think it was maybe taking notes or just reiterate some of the things that you said. I will check YouTube as well to see if there are no comments there. So if any of the audience has a comment or a contribution, you can unmute yourself and speak for maybe 2-3 minutes before we just return it back to our presenter. She'll just kind of wrap it up in 5 minutes and we would make the closing dua, inshallah. Is there anyone with comments? You could also text in the chat if that's more comfortable.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam wa
Right.
rahmatullah.
Now, towards the end, Jazakallah khairan for the discussion so far. It has been much beneficial. and there's a lot to take home and ruminate about to implement. May Allah bless our hustle with Barakah. Um, I just
Um,
wanted to make a addition on the last one of the last points that was mentioned about contentment. A lot of time people conflict contentment with complacency. Contentment
okay.
isn't complacency. When we talk about contentment, it's not about being just okay with what will be, or just
Being mid.
being laid back in a sense. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Being mediocre in a sense. It's about trusting that what Allah has apportioned to you will come, and and you have to, while also pursuing your goals in a sense, but having it at the back of your mind that due to the tawakkul that you have, whatever comes your way, you know that is what Allah has designed for you, whether good or bad. So, but now we're talking about the good, especially. So, when contentment is mentioned, it's not complacency. We should be careful not to conflict the two. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, no, no. I think that's a very beautiful point. Reminds me of a particular verse where Allah says, okay, well, of the hadith also says, "إحرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله." You should seek what benefits you. That you should work hard. You should Harris is not just seeking, it's actually like striving. Because you say in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, وَلَا تَجْدَنَّهُمْ أَحْرَصَ النَّاسِ عَلَىٰ حَيَاةٍ. They are أحرص الناس. They are those who cling the most. So they strive the most على حياة to life. So the when also says احرص على ما ينفعك, that you should work hard for that which would benefit you. So now, at Muslims, we're not supposed to be mediocre. In fact, there's a hadith that says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ عَبْدًا إِذَا عَمِلَ عَمَلًا أَن يُتْقِنَهُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the servants, that when he does an action, he does it excellently. So yes, we should not be mediocre as Muslims. We should strive hard and stay within the bounds of Allah, seek Allah's help and trust in Him and have taqwa. And inshallah, Allah SWT will grant us what's best. Now, we should tie our camel and put our trust in Allah to bring the results. So now, if there's any other comments or question, either on Zoom or YouTube, we'll take them now. Otherwise, we will be closing after we just have our presenter give us a final, just like a 3 to 5 minutes conclusion. And Sister Nima, you can just, I think you can speak, just kind of give us a concluding remark. So we'll just make the dua after that and
Um,
close for today, inshallah.
um, all right, to conclude on this topic, we've discussed at length hustle culture, we've discussed Barakah culture, and we've learned that hustle culture generally has to do with an endless chase for more. They're chasing and chasing and chasing the dunya. They're trying to chase that material success. While the Barakah culture is the one that, while chasing that material success, you also chase the spiritual aspect of it. And from what we've discussed about Barakah culture, we would find that it gives us peace. It has mentioned the fact that it helps reduce anxiety, having the trust in Allah, doing your best, that's tying your camel and then putting your trust in Allah. It gives you peace, first of all. It gives you true contentment. And then it gives you true benefits, because the true benefit, I would say, true success is in the hereafter. So you have to align lives generally according to, as Muslims, you have to align our lives to Islamic principles, or with Islamic principles, or we should seek barakah over mere productivity. We must take that conscious decision as Muslims. Do you want to be slaves to hustle, or do you want to work in a way that brings about Allah's blessings and attract ultimate success, which is the hereafter? It is not about working. Of course, people work hard around. There are people that work very, very, very hard, but then you don't even see the results. So at the end of the day, it is not about working too hard, but working hard enough and then putting trust in Allah. It is said that, as we said earlier, whoever desires the harvest of the hereafter will increase for him in the harvest. Surah to Shura, verse 20. Whoever desires the harvest of the hereafter will increase for him in his harvest. And whoever desires the harvest of this world, we give him thereof, but he has no share in the hereafter. So as Muslims have to take a conscious decision. Do you want this dunya alone, which is vain, which is fickle, or do you want both dunya and the hereafter? Because doesn't mean that we should live a life of doing it with dunya. No, you're alive. As a Muslim, work hard, have that money, be wealthy, even if you can. But then at the same time, be content and work for the success too of that hereafter.
Yeah. Jazakumullah khairan for that closing statement. Yes, yes, like just like the hadith and the last thing you said, a person can actually have to a very distant degree both. You could, like that, you should focus on year after. وَسَعَلَى سَعْيًا وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُم مَشْكُورًا. So now we can have both. We can have barakah and we can have success in this world as well. And even if this world were not the most successful, the fact that we have barakah in our dealings kind of will I say gives us that rest of mind that inshallah in the next world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would compensate us in very great ways. Jazakumullah khairan for your time, our presenter, for coming today and spending about 1 hour, 30 minutes with us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the time, of course, that you used to prepare. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you abundantly and bless you and continue to put barakah in your business and in your work. And in all your cases, I bring for you good clients that would that would allow your career to move forward. I mean, سبحانك اللهم
Ameen.
وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. سبحانك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So inshallah, please make sure to join us tomorrow for our last session on this year's Ramadan in me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us to Ramadan. Allahumma balighna Ramadan. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.